Hello, third graders. We are back for another reading of Door on the Wall. I do not have Stella. This is the same day that I recorded the last reading, so I haven't changed, but Stella left. Okay, and I also, Mr. Sinowski brought me a yummy cup of French press coffee. So I have to take a sip. Okay, we left off with Robin leaving the castle to go get help from John Go on the Wind. He snuck out and he jumped in the river, swam across it, freezing cold, with his crutches on his back, but he made it across, and that's where we left off. Okay, here we go. By the way, thank you, third graders. I know not everyone is joining us for these readings, but I know I have some faithful followers, so thank you. If you are one of my faithful followers, would you let me know that in an email? I would love to know who is listening to these. Okay, here we go. After passing through a patch of brush and willows, Robin came out into a field. He still could not see very far ahead, but the path was straight before him, so he began to swing along as fast as he could, his crutches making great sweeping circles, his feet covering the ground in tremendous strides. There seemed to be no one about, so he made haste without regard to noise, and gradually the numbness in his hands and feet from the cold water, began to ease. Across the field he went, swinging, swing, step, swing, step, swing, step. If you've ever seen somebody on crutches, or if you've been on crutches and you're going fast, it's like you're going whoop, step, whoop, step. That's what he's doing. Fast. The fog wavered and lifted, swirled about in sudden drafts, floated across the path in thin layers, showed a patch of blue sky for an instant, and glimpses of trees ahead. Suddenly, a voice rang out. "Who goes there?" Robin stopped. "'Tis but I, Robin," he answered in a meek voice, and the chill that ran down his spine was not all from the dampness of his clothing. "Robin who?" the voice went on. "Robin Cruikshank, some call me," answered Robin. The fog parted, showing the fierce and scowling head of a man. The guard drew near where he could see the boy. "Ah," he said, "art thou but a shepherd boy then?" he asked, seeing Robin's poor clothes. "And hast fallen into the river? Come then, lad, and warm thyself by the fire. Be not frightened, we'll not hurt thee." He took Robin's arm and tried to draw him toward the camp, which now Robin could see just at the side of the field, for now the fog was fast disappearing. But Robin held back and shook his head, trying to think what he must say and how he must speak. "Nay," he began, trying to appear stupid, "'tis not far to the cottage." He edged away, bobbing his thanks, and went on as fast as he dared, up the other side of the field and through the hedgerow. He did not stop until he was well beyond earshot of the men in the camp, then stood only for a moment to draw long, steadying breaths. He chuckled at the way he had fooled the Welshman. From that point on, the path led through a wood and downward toward the valley of a stream which joined the one surrounding the castle. So there was a stream close to the castle and a valley that he's crossing now. There were no cottages near at hand, but across the stream and beyond a low lying and a rising slope, Robin could see the wood that extended to the edge of the village where the church tower stood. The sky now was filled with fast-flying clouds, and the fog was gone. The stream was shallow enough for Robin to go across on foot, and the little wetting he got was nothing after swimming the river. When he reached the shelter of the great trees, Robin sank down into a bed of bracken to rest. Bracken is like a bunch of green growth in the field, okay? And so it was probably like ferns or something, and he could fall into it and kind of hide and rest. Soft, it was soft. He was very tired. When breathing was easier and the pain of effort was but a dull ache, Robin rose to go on. How much farther had he to go? Would John Go in the Wind be there when he arrived? Would he be able to get help in time? Even through the forest, the path was well marked because it was one that had been used for centuries. The peasants went over it to and fro from the villages to gather wood or to pasture the sheep. In about an hour, the forest began to thin, and Robin could see the blue smoke coming from the cotters' chimney pots. Which cottage belonged to John's mother? Robin remembered that John had said it was on the heath, which is a certain area that is probably has, I don't know, it probably has a lot of shrubs around it, okay, if it's on the heath. And it was near the church, so he remembered those two things. He could see such a cottage from where he stood, so he made his way toward it hopefully. It was so exciting to be within sight of help that Robin forgot that he was tired and hungry. He forgot that he was still cold from his dousing in the river and the fright he'd had. He began to cut across the heath toward the cottage, but had not gone far when John himself, yay, came out the door. Robin stopped. "John!" he called at the top of his voice. "John! Oh, John, Go in the Wind!" John heard him and looked his way, then came running. "Master Robin!" he exclaimed. "What's the trouble? Come, you are." Oh, I'm so sorry. Some of this is written in this funny old English. "What's the trouble? How came thou here?" Without waiting for an answer, he grasped Robin's crutches and swept him up into his arms, because he could see that Robin had come as far as he was able. It had been Robin's plan to issue orders, as his father might have done, to have been lordly and commanding, but it was such a relief to be cared for and to have the weight of his body taken from his aching armpits that he allowed John to carry him and said not a word until he was laid upon the straw pallet. An old woman stood by the fire stirring something in a pot. She looked at Robin but didn't speak. A cat mewed and coaxed her, rubbing against her skirts. "The castle is in danger," said Robin at once. "The Welsh have taken the town and are at the gates of the outer bailey. The food is giving out. The water is low in the well. You must get help. You must get it soon." "But how came you here?" said John, amazed. "How did you escape the sentry?" John was already putting on his hood and fastening his leather jerkin. He went on without waiting. "Do you know what force the Welsh have?" "No," said Robin. "The fog has kept us from seeing, but whenever we tried to make a rush of troops into the town, we were forced back." "I shall be gone straight away. Stay here for safety and for rest." John Go in the Wind was well named, for go he did, closing the door behind him almost before he had finished speaking. Robin sighed. It was good to be able to rest. "Come now," said the woman as she took off Robin's clothes to dry them. "Thou'lt be famished with hunger. I'll bake thee a bannock." Remember, that's a cake, and that's what John Go in the Wind said his mother would do. As tired as he was, Robin grinned. She went to the cupboard and took out a flat cake, which she put on a hot stone to bake. Robin slept after the woman fed him and didn't wake until the sun was low in the west. The sound of the door opening was what really woke him. It was John. Robin was up on his elbow in a second. "Did you not go then?" he asked in bewilderment. Then he realized he had slept and that it was late in the day. "Did you find help?" "Yes, already. They are well on their way from my Lord Hugh Fitzhugh's castle," said John. A large force of foot soldiers and a company of soldiers go by the drovers' road, one company by the way through wood and field, and another going around to attack from the other side of the town by way of Leatham Bridge. It has been agreed that we shall give the signal from the bell tower of the church. There are no better bowmen in England. The siege will be lifted. You will see." "Oh, I want to see it," declared Robin. "I want to see it all." "See it thou shalt," promised John. "Now, mother, serve me some porridge, for I have not had anything to eat today." The mother bustled about, putting the porridge into a bowl for all to dip into and drawing a bench up to the table. John laid out the little harp, put bread into his pouch, and stuck a knife in his belt. "I am no warrior," he said to Robin. "I am but a messenger and minstrel, but who knows? I might find myself close to the enemy, closer than I would like," he added with a shrug. That's why he put the the dagger into his belt. The meal was over soon, and they made ready to start. "Do you think I can go this far again today?" Robin asked anxiously. "Thou hast no need to think of that," John assured him. "I can carry thee right well, as the good friar did. The harp and the crutches we shall strap on so that they will not cumber us." He fastened the crutches to his side and the harp around Robin's neck so it hung down his back. "Soon thou wilt be carrying thine own harp, God willing." "Fare thee well, O mother," said John, embracing her. "Up now, young master," he said to Robin, and with that they left the cottage and went on their way. "How shall we go?" asked Robin, as John strode down the path on the way out of the village. "Shall we go by the way I came here, or by the Leatham Bridge?" "Neither," answered John Go-in-the-Wind. "I know still another way. I know a path leading through the forest to the southeast. It goes past the priory, where we shall ford the river. We can come at the town easily from there. Then we can wait for nightfall, and indeed it will be nightfall by the time we arrive. But there will be a moon. We shall creep along the river under cover of the reeds and willows and enter the town through the shoemaker's house, which is on the wall. He is known to me, and we have a signal between us. He knows the sound of my harp, and the certain tune I play will tell him we have need of him. From there it is quite simple to get into the graveyard of the church, then into the church itself and into the tower. There we shall see all and hear all if we are not deafened by the bells." "What an adventure to tell my father!" cried Robin. Although he carried Robin, John trotted along at a good speed, for he knew every curve in the path. When they reached the top of the hill beyond, John pointed out the drovers' road far below. There, glints of light on lance and pennant, helmet, and moving figures showed Robin the fast-moving company of soldiers. These are the good soldiers on the English side, going in to attack the Welsh. Because it was nearly dusk and supper time, blue smoke rose from every chimney pot in the village they had left, and in the low places mist began to rise. "We must make haste," said John, lifting Robin again to his back, "or we shall be too late." When they had to cross open country again, John kept to the hedgerows so they would not be seen, and as they came nearer to Lindsay, he kept well away from every barn and outbuilding. "For all we know, the Welsh may be encamped out here on this side of the castle as well as on the other," he explained. "They might question even a minstrel such as I. It is safer for our skins to go softly." By the time they reached the place where the drovers' road led, John halted before crossing the road to observe the sentry. They waited for the sound of his footsteps to die away around the town. The moon was high, and by keeping well in the shadow of a tree, they were able to cross the road without being seen. "Ah," said John with a sigh of relief, "so far we have come safely. Soon Sir Hugh's men will encircle the town. By then we shall be in the church tower to give the signal for attack." "We have not seen the enemy on this side of the town," whispered Robin hopefully. "No," agreed John, "because they have taken the town and will be inside the walls. There is more need of outposts to the south and west, where the two bridges are, and where the roads leading from them are well traveled. The Welsh will reason that there is little likelihood of danger from this road because it is well known that Sir Peter and his cousin Sir Hugh are not on friendly terms. Sir Peter is for the king and for England. Sir Hugh is not. But they are of one family and were once like brothers. I had little difficulty in persuading him, Sir Hugh. Perhaps they will be friends from now on, said Robin. Perhaps Sir Hugh will be one for the king. It may be, John nodded. Most of the lords in this part of the country are for keeping their lands to themselves. But times are changing, and we do have a good king. Hark, whispered Robin again. All is still. The sentry is at the far end of his walk. Shall we go then? Aye, 'tis time, said John. Is the little harp safe? 'Tis safe, said Robin, grasping John about the neck and getting himself settled on his back. They crept forward again, shielded by the darkness, and made their way along a narrow path that followed the wall until the rising ground told John they were near to the shoemaker's cottage. There again they halted to make sure no sentry was about. John, letting Robin slip to the ground, fitted the crutches under his arms and took the harp from about his neck. The tune he played was mournful and slow, but it must have reached the ears of the shoemaker. John was just beginning to play it for the third time when there was an answer to it in the form of a bagpipe jig. So John Go-in-the-Wind is playing this song on his harp. He's trying to get the attention of the shoemaker. And the shoemaker is answering him back with a bagpipe. Robin could see John bobbing his head up and down happily because his playing had brought forth the right response. There followed another period of waiting while the sentry passed again on the wall. They scarcely breathed until he had turned again and was going the other way. So remember, they're in this town, okay? And these sentries are the Welsh sentries. They're the soldiers, and they're keeping guard. And so they don't want one of these Welsh soldiers to see them, or these sentries, okay? By counting his steps, they knew when he was far enough away for them to act. Then, without warning, a sort of chair was let down from a window high up there in the wall. John fastened Robin onto it and gave the rope a jerk. Robin was hauled aloft so quickly that he had no time to think what he should do or what he should say. He found himself being lifted inside the upper room of a small house and the window drawn to. He faced a little man who cautioned him to silence while again they waited for the sentry to come and to go. There was no light in the room except the moonlight that came in through the window. This is really exciting, thought Robin. He wished that John had been able to come into the house with him. He heard the tramp of the sentry and the thudding of the pike staff as it struck the stone when the sentry turned at the wall of the house. The sound lessened, and once more the rope was lowered. This time it was for John. In a moment, John stood in the room with him. The rope and iron wheel were stored in an innocent-looking chest. The shoemaker quickly lifted the wheel out of the strong wooden block which held it covered with a flat board and cloth. The shoemaker motioned for Robin and John to follow him down the stair leading to the house below. And that is where we're going to end the next, I think we only have one more chapter. We only have one more chapter. We'll probably read it in 2 sections, but of course it's so exciting, right? Okay, thank you 3rd graders for joining me this week for Door in the Wall. I hope you have a great weekend. I am so proud of all your hard work.